Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. Because it is so late, we're going to forego the Pledge of Allegiance and the United States National Anthem tonight. Folks, we have a lot to talk about tonight. First off, we had a fire early this morning in Washington, D.C. Let me let you see what happened there. This is live footage from this morning. Let me show you a few minutes of this. This was a gasoline or not a gasoline fire, but a natural gas fire.
There's our fire.
This fire leveled a building in Washington, D.C. in a housing area. There may have been some other businesses in this area too, but right now they have not come forward and said exactly what was in here, but some people may have lost their lives here in Washington, D.C. this morning as a natural gas pipe broke and leveled a building in Washington, D.C. this morning. A very terrible thing to wake up to early this morning. I heard the calls to the dispatch from the fire department that was responding and the dispatchers to the responding units. This was quite a deal. I want to share this with you. I've got a link to this video in our program description below this program tonight. I want to show it to you because I thought it was important. This is in Washington, D.C. this morning. Something else that happened this afternoon. I did not see this live, but we launched another set of 4 astronauts to the United States Space Station earlier this afternoon. I want to play this for you now. This is the last moments until liftoff, and then I'll play part of the insertion into Earth's orbit.
Nine, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Engine full power. And liftoff. Go active 3.
Further beyond, opening the door for more to follow. Godspeed AX3.
Stage 1 propulsion nominal.
Of course, if you are just joining us, this is the launch of the Axiom 3 launch to the International Space Station. Those incredible views on your screen, and there's our first shot of the AX3 crew inside Dragon on ascent. Now, in just a few seconds here, we should hear the call out that Falcon 9...
power and telemetry. Stage 1 throttle down.
There's that call out that Falcon 9's engines are throttling down to help us pass through the period of maximum dynamic pressure during ascent.
Max Q.
There's that call out for Max Q.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
And that Falcon 9 is going faster than the speed of sound. Now, at this point, we will begin to throttle Falcon 9's engines back up.
Stage 1 throttle up.
There's that call out for mission control as well, as our AX3 crew continues on their way to space.
This was when the
Now,
second
the next two
stage
major
took
events
over.
we're tracking for the first stage, which right now is on the left-hand side of your screen, is going to be the entry burn at about T plus 6.5 minutes, where we'll light 3 of Falcon 9's first stage engines, followed shortly thereafter by the landing burn at T plus 7 minutes and 32 seconds, which will be a single engine burn to bring us back to landing zone 1 at Kennedy Space Center.
The first stage landed at Kennedy Space Center. There was a nominal separation of the first stage. The second stage rocket ignited and propelled them into a low Earth orbit on a almost 36-hour mission to catch up with the United States Space Station, or I shouldn't say the United States Space Station, but the International Space Station. This crew has a multi-country contingent. 4 different nations are represented here: Sweden, Turkey, Italy, and also the United States. 4 nations. This is the first time this has ever happened where we've launched a crew from 4 different nations: Sweden, Turkey, Italy, and the United States. This is quite the crew. It's a wonderful thing that we're able to do this, and we now have 4 astronauts in Earth orbit right now playing a catch-up with the International Space Station. They're scheduled to dock with the space station approximately Saturday morning, give or take a few hours, depending on everything going through. Again, the United States launched another rocket, a Falcon 9 rocket, to the space station with an international contingent of astronauts that are going to play catch up with the space station during the next 36 hours. And like I said, docking is expected at the International Space Station Saturday morning. Now, folks, there's all kinds of weather still hitting the United States and overseas in Europe as well. All kinds of nasty weather. This weather is going to continue through the first part of the week. After the 19th, after tomorrow, things should start settling down. Weather on the East Coast will continue with very cold temperatures and rain and possible snow here on the East Coast. But the rest of the United States should be experiencing a little bit of a warm-up. Not much, but a little bit of a warm-up. Blizzard conditions are literally everywhere. Avalanches. Avalanches are also happening all over the country. Huge avalanches are happening. This is one in Utah. This is one in Big Cottonwood Canyon in Utah. Avalanches in California, Oregon, and Washington are to be expected because of the heavy snows and the weight of the snow as well. Heavy-duty water is contained in the snow that has fallen, and that may be a good thing. We may finally pull completely out of the drought that has plagued the United States for quite some time. This weather should also be continuing over in Europe. This weather will blow east into Europe and also bring wetter conditions to Europe as well. Snowfall all over the place. This is just one beautiful shot of snowfall. We love this. This is one of my favorite shots of snow in the winter. One of the most beautiful sights that we could see. Now, I want to talk about something else first, okay? Before we go anywhere else. Over in Iceland, we're still having issues in Iceland. We will get to that in just a few minutes. I want to now go to earthquakes around the world. We had an earthquake late last night over in the South Pacific. This earthquake in the South Pacific was a very large earthquake. A very large earthquake bordering on a, shall I say, a very strong 6.4. It came out as a 6.2, USGS downgraded it right away and labeled it a 5.9 earthquake. Let's bring up the USGS map here. I want to show you this. Okay? Come on, you stupid thing. We have had nothing but problems with our internet here. We've had nothing but problems with our internet. Huge problems. Ah, great. What's going on here? Okay, we got our map here. I'm sorry it took so long to bring this up. We had a 5.9 earthquake. This came out as a 6.2, downgraded to a 5.9. This is over in Tonga. Now, I want to tell you this. This is important to understand. Now we have a 6.4 here as well. That was a 5.0. This one hit at 11:13 a.m. this morning. This is a 5.8. It was downgraded as far as a 5.8. It came out as a 6.2. Nearly a half magnitude downgrade. A half magnitude downgrade. This earthquake here just happened within the last 2 hours, in fact. Now we have a 6.4 earthquake here. Remember the earthquakes we told you about last week. We told you we would be seeing upwards of a 6.2, 6.3. This is a 6.4. The 6.2 hit last night. This is a 6.4. The earthquakes that we had last week, one was a 4.8. One was a 5.0. The earthquake that was a 5.0 was 564 kilometers deep. This earthquake right here is the earthquake we were looking for the 5.0 earthquake. Large, deep earthquakes propagate more shallow, stronger earthquakes. This was more shallow. Only 216 kilometers deep for this one. 216 kilometers deep for this one. Still a fairly shallow quake compared to what the other was last week. This earthquake just south of there, a 5.8. This was last night's earthquake that came out as a 6.2. This was 155 kilometers deep. Still more shallow than the earthquake that we had last week. Large, deep earthquakes propagate stronger, more shallow quakes. We have evidence of this. Okay? So we had this earthquake here. Okay? Again, it came out as a 6.2. They downgraded this one to a 5.8. We also had this one here. This is a 5.0. This happened earlier this morning at 11:13 a.m. this morning. A large 5.0. Then this evening, we had this that just happened, a 6.4 earthquake. Okay? Just happened 2 hours ago. Further south and west here, south of the Fiji Islands, this is a moderate 4.8 earthquake. This is 558 kilometers deep. Remember that the earthquakes last week? This is a moderate 4.8. 558 kilometers deep. This is going to result in a 5.9, 6.0 earthquake that's going to happen within the next 72 hours to 10 days. It's going to propagate a larger, stronger or I shouldn't say larger, but a stronger, more shallow earthquake of 5.9 to 6.0. By this time next week, we should have that quake. It could happen here in this area. The new quake that this will spawn will happen either in this area here or over into Vanuatu, the Solomon Islands, or Papua New Guinea. Or this energy could go further east, over here to Chile and Argentina. Notice the USGS just posted this earthquake here in northern Chile at the border region of Argentina. This is a 4.3 moderate earthquake near San Antonio de los Cobres, Argentina, at the border region with Chile. This is 229 kilometers deep. Still a relatively shallow earthquake. One of the larger earthquakes that hit today is also here in southern Mexico. This is Matia Zapotlan, southern Mexico. This was a large 5.0 earthquake. Folks, this is 50 kilometers deep. 50 kilometers deep. This is a good sized earthquake. Now, I want to zoom in even closer here. This was on land. People live in this area. People live in this area. To the south, we have a city over here. Right there. Over here, we have inhabitants along the shoreline here. Now, this is not the resort area of southern Mexico. It's further north. These people here live in relative object poverty. Okay? They felt this earthquake. This was a large, damaging earthquake. This could have ramifications for a very long time for inhabitants of this area. Right here. This is in relatively mountainous region as well. Folks, what you may or may not know, this area is still the edge of the plate, the Cocos Plate, even though the Cocos Plate is known to be somewhat offshore here. This area here in the mountainous region of southern Mexico is also prone to heavy-duty earthquakes because it is on the edge of the Cocos Plate here. So this place here is going to have some injuries. It's going to have possible fatalities here and destruction of buildings and homes. We're going to check in with these people tonight, and if necessary we will come back on the air and tell you what is happening here in southern Mexico. Okay? Notice here, we're showing 2 earthquakes on the west coast. This is unheard of. Unheard of, guys. This earthquake here, this is over in the Imperial Valley of Southern California. The Imperial Valley of Southern California. This is a 3.0 earthquake. They have this as a 2.9. This is at least a 3.0 earthquake here in Ocotillo Wells, California. Ocotillo Wells, California. This is southwest of Salton City. Salton City is right here, right next to the western edge of the Salton Sea. Salton City is also a ghost town. However, there's also another seismograph here recording earthquakes. But Caltech and the USGS have basically turned it off. They're not advising us of any seismic activity here at Salton City. Usually we have that activity. that they have shut this seismograph off. They've also shut another seismograph off over here in Calipatria. This is Calipatria, California. This is over on the southeast side of the Salton Sea. Usually this seismograph records upwards of 100 to 150 earthquakes here every day. They've been shutting this seismograph off for 12 hours a day. Now this is the third day where we have no seismic readings at all. They've completely shut down this seismograph as well. Who knows when they're going to turn it back on? They know darn well that there are earthquakes hitting this area. They know darn well there's going to be a larger earthquake here. All the scientists have said that. This area is beyond the normal thresholds for large earthquakes. Over on the eastern side of the Salton Sea here, we have what they call the Imperial Fault. The Imperial Fault. When the San Andreas Fault enters the Imperial Valley here, they term it the Imperial Fault, but it is the San Andreas Fault. This fault is over 240 years past due for a major earthquake. Yes, we've had 5.0s here. We have had 5.5 earthquakes here around the Salton Sea and the Imperial Valley. Down here in the south part of the Imperial Valley south of the Salton Sea, this area has a bunch of earthquake faults. A bunch. It's known to have a lot of different ancillary faults as well as the San Andreas Fault. Like I said, the San Andreas Fault follows the Salton Sea on the east side. Then over here at Bombay Beach, I've shown you the Bombay Beach seismogram before, full of earthquakes. The San Andreas Fault here enters underneath the Salton Sea here. It travels underneath the Salton Sea all the way down here until it comes back out here, over here just north of Calipatria. Then when it comes out here, it makes an abrupt southwesterly turn. It comes down here to Westmoreland. It comes down here to Westmoreland. Then it makes another turn to the south here and cuts through the entire Imperial Valley. The other faults here in the Imperial Valley are called the Brawley Fault Zone. The Brawley Fault Zone. When the San Andreas Fault opens up, the Brawley Fault Zone is going to turn this whole area into chaos, literally. This whole area is sand, loamy soil and sand. This area is an agricultural area. What do you think happens when a good-sized earthquake hits this area? Does it or does it not bring up the water table? What is that called? What is it called when an earthquake happens and it brings up the water table? What happens? This whole area turns into a great big huge mess. A great big huge mess. Okay? You've seen this in movies before, where people, homes, buildings, cars, power poles, stop signs sink into the soil. It sinks into the soil. Folks, this is what's going to happen again. It's happened in the past, it's going to happen again. Okay? No, Sherry, it's not going to turn into a tsunami. When this area hits with a good-sized earthquake, 5.0 or larger, it will bring up the water table. This area here in the Imperial Valley most of it is below sea level. This is a desert area below sea level. When seismic energy hits here, what happens? What is it called, guys? You guys always remind me when we have earthquakes. What is it called? When the water table is shaken and the water table rises here in the loamy soil. Okay? It's going to be a mess. It's going to happen again. Now, just 3 days ago, I showed you an area right here along the border region of the United States and Mexico. It's called Guadalupe, Victoria. Guadalupe, Victoria. April 3rd, 2010. We had a 7.1, 7.2 earthquake that hit here. Mexicali and Calexico were inundated with shock waves. Buildings were flattened. Nobody was killed, but there were people injured here. Fortunately, there's nobody here with big enough buildings that would collapse. The only buildings that were here were small one-story buildings, shops, stores, and that kind of thing. Yes, there were some apartments. Nobody was killed. There were people injured. Buildings flattened. More than $1 million worth of damage here in the Calexico, Mexicali region. Mexicali is on the Mexican side of the border, and Calexico is on the California side of the border. The 7.1, 7.2 earthquake originated in Guadalupe, Victoria, Mexico. Just 3 days ago, we had some small 3.5, 3.9 earthquakes here. They may have been larger. The agencies have a habit of downgrading seismic energy. It's coming again, guys. This is going to come again. Today in southern Mexico, we had another 5.0. The agencies, I'm blaming not just the USGS, the US agency. I'm also blaming the Europeans for following in the footsteps of the US Geological Survey and not reporting the earthquakes. Usually we have 10 to 15 earthquakes here in the Imperial Valley every week. Every week. This is the first time they've reported any kind of seismic activity all week long. This was in Ocotillo Wells today. Folks, there's going to be more earthquakes here. Usually we have 3.5s and 4.5s down here in the Gulf of California. That same San Andreas fault that starts off in Northern California at the base of the major earthquake fault just off the coast of Northern California, Washington, and Oregon. The Cascadia megathrust earthquake. The Cascadia subduction zone. The San Andreas Fault and the Gorda Escarpment meet up in just off the coast of Northern California. The San Andreas Fault then deep dives throughout the state of California all the way down here through the Gulf of California. And it follows all the way down here into southern Mexico. With this 5.0 earthquake in southern Mexico, it's highly likely that in the next week to 10 days we could have another 5.0 earthquake over at the southern border of the United States. We shall see what happens. We shall see what happens. This is only the third 5.0 earthquake we've had here in the past month. That's why I say that this earthquake could spawn a larger earthquake at the U.S. border. I believe seismic energy is locked up here in southern Mexico. It is rampant. It is rampant. I'm surprised a major earthquake is not hit yet here in southern Mexico, but it could. And if that major earthquake happens here in southern Mexico, you can daggum well believe that southern California will get hit with a large 7.0 earthquake. A major earthquake. That's why I'm talking about it. Today's Thursday, January 18th. Tomorrow we're going to dedicate this program to emergency preparedness. Up here in Washington, only the second earthquake to appear here on the West Coast today. The USGS has it here. This is the 3.3 earthquake here in the Puget Sound area. This is Coupeville, Washington, or Coupeville, Washington. Again, this is in the Puget Sound area. This is a small 3.3 earthquake. A small 3.3 earthquake. We keep having earthquakes here. We told you about earthquakes over at Mount Baker to the northwest or to the northeast. We told you about earthquakes over at Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, Mount Hood. We told you about earthquakes at Newberry Volcano, Sisters Volcano, Bachelor Volcano, Crater Lake, Mount Shasta, and Mount Lassen. Yet, the agency here does not show you any earthquakes. Yet the earthquakes we showed you at the volcanoes were 3.5 to 4.5 earthquakes. These earthquakes happen every day, not just on Mondays and Thursdays, or Wednesdays and Tuesdays. These earthquakes happen at the volcanoes every day. We told you that we expect to have a volcanic eruption here on the West Coast, in the Cascade Mountain region, at the volcanoes. It's going to happen. But there's more seismic energy all around this area, more than just at the volcanoes. This is just a 3.3 that they want to tell us about. What else are they hiding? What else are they hiding, guys? Okay? Up here in Alaska, I have shown you in the past upwards of 60 to 70 earthquakes per day that happen here in Alaska. Right here in southern Alaska. But let's first go over here. This is the Aleutian Island Fault. This is a small earthquake at Atka, Alaska. A 3.0 earthquake. Going north, we have an earthquake here near Ugashik, Alaska. This is a 2.5 minor quake. We go back out here to the northeast, over here in the Gulf of Alaska. This is a 3.0 in the Gulf of Alaska. We go up here, okay? This is the Cook Inlet. The Cook Inlet here. This is a 2.8 near Anchor Point. Anchor Point. What do we know about Anchor Point? This is out in the water here in the Cook Inlet. A 2.8 earthquake. Going north here. Nulachik, Alaska. This is a 2.5. This is just south of Mount Redoubt. South of Mount Redoubt. Mount Redoubt is another volcano that's right here. Right here. This earthquake has been steaming. This volcano has been steaming. It's been rocking. This earthquake here in Nulachik is just one of many earthquakes that are happening here. But this is the only one that USGS wants us to know about. Let's go north. Okay? Before we go too much further, over here in southern Alaska is a town called Anchorage. About 1.5 million people live in and around Anchorage, Alaska. There are earthquakes here as well, but they're not telling us about it, are they? There's always some kind of earthquakes all over this area. Most of the time, it's minor earthquakes, 2.2, 2.5, 2.7, even small 3.0s and 3.5 earthquakes. But USGS doesn't have the huevos to tell us the truth. They just don't. Over here, south of Denali National Park. This is Skwentna, Alaska. SKWENTNA. Skwentna, Alaska. There's a 2.6 earthquake here. USGS is not telling us about any earthquakes in and around Denali National Park. There have always been earthquakes here, but they're too stupid, too dumb, and think we're too stupid to even recognize that the earthquakes aren't happening. And they are. They are happening here. Okay, let's go north here. This is up at the Arctic Circle. This is a 2.6 here, 50 kilometers north of Kobuk, Alaska. 50 kilometers north of Kobuk, Alaska. Kobuk, Alaska, 3.5 years ago had a 6.3 earthquake. A very strong 6.3 earthquake. 50 miles south of here. Now here at the Arctic Circle we have a 2.6 minor earthquake. Do you think this is the only earthquake that hit here? Not. We had aftershocks of that Kobuk earthquake hitting here for 2 years. And now we're seeing more earthquakes hit this area. But they're not telling us about it, are they? Rarely do they ever tell us the truth. Lately, they have not done so. They just have not done so. Over here in Japan, they're telling us about one lone earthquake here. There are quite a few other earthquakes hitting this area. This is the Noto Peninsula over in western Alaska. A few weeks ago we had a major earthquake that hit here. It came out as a 7.8 earthquake. They immediately downgraded it to a 7.5. They downgraded the Cotton Picker to a 7.5 earthquake. As I pointed out, it was an 8.4 earthquake. Nearly 200 people were killed by this earthquake. Over 350 people were found injured as a result of this earthquake. And nearly $1 billion worth of damage. Nearly $1 billion worth of damage. There's more than just one aftershock here today. There's 5. There's 5. This is a 4.5 earthquake here. 10 kilometers deep. 6.2 kilometers deep, or 6.2 miles deep. 10 kilometers deep, 6.2 kilometers deep. Miles deep, I'm sorry. Boy, am I screwed up tonight. Aubrey saying echo. Okay, does this help? Do we have any more echo now? Can someone or several people give me a 5.5, please? Hey, Don. I think I got it now. How are you hearing me now? Okay. Demon. Yeah, Demon Catman and Aubrey have given me 5x5, his sword, Betty Zoom. Anyway, everybody says it's good now. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, brother. Bye-bye. Okay, that was Don Patoka. He just told me about that echo, and I'm back here. I think I've solved it. I hope. Go figure. Anyway, guys, this is typically what USGS says. They never tell us the truth lately. I don't think they even know the truth anymore. Honestly. Okay? Over here. I'm going to zoom in here to let you see where this is. This is northern Indonesia. In Tobelo, Indonesia. This is a moderate 4.4, 117 kilometers deep. Out here in the ocean. I don't think anybody even felt this earthquake, because the ocean waters here absorbed the quake. Over here is a little bit different. This is a 4.6 east-northeast of Poso, Indonesia. First time we've had an earthquake like this here. Okay? I don't remember ever seeing a decent-sized earthquake here near Poso, Indonesia. This is a 5.2. This is the large 5.2. 46.5 kilometers deep. This 4.6 is an aftershock. 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles deep. It's in a rather mountainous region here of western Indonesia. Okay? Look at this. Okay? Anywhere where you see rivers, anywhere where you see rivers, probably earthquake fault near those rivers. Almost always. Almost always. But this area is pretty good size, mountainous and hilly area. Okay? You can almost always have an earthquake fault in this region. Why do I say that? Folks, there are 7 different tectonic plates here. 7 different tectonic plates. Each plate subducting under the other plate. That's why we have earthquakes here in Indonesia. Over here, east of Java. This is a 4.7 moderate quake here. This is a bit deeper. 193 kilometers deep. Still a fairly shallow earthquake. This is over on the southern plate boundary here in Indonesia. Over here off the southern coast of Sumatra. The southern coast of Sumatra here. This is about at 4.6 near Bengkulu, Indonesia. We have had major earthquakes here in Bengkulu, Indonesia. This is also on that earthquake fault here, the edge of the tectonic plate. That's why this earthquake happened. It's right on top of the tectonic plate. The southern Sumatra ridge here. Okay? Now, we're not showing any earthquakes at all here in Australia. Why not? Why not? We've been having earthquakes here almost all week long. Why wouldn't we have had an earthquake here? Isn't it interesting that they don't show any earthquakes in Australia? That's because of all the earthquakes north of there. Look at this. They show us 3 earthquakes. What do we have here? 12. This is more like 32 earthquakes here than just 3. 32 earthquakes here in central and southern Indonesia. And yet USGS shows us none but 3. Almost none. Almost none. They also show only 2 earthquake or 1 earthquake south of Sumatra. Folks, that's not even true. This is a 5.0 earthquake here, just off the coast of central Sumatra. A 5.0 earthquake there. How about down here, Bengkulu, Indonesia? This they have is a 3.49. 3.5 earthquake here in southern Sumatra. Okay? Look at all these earthquakes here. They think we can just let go and not say anything. Folks, you can't do that. You can't do that. I want to show you something. Look at all these earthquakes here. Let me show you where those earthquakes are. They're all here on this island. They're all here on this island. What kind of earthquakes do you think these are? When was the last time we saw groupings of earthquakes like this? Okay? More than likely. Let me just show you this, okay? So you'll understand where I'm coming from. This one is a 3.0 earthquake. Let's go south from there. 3.7, 2.5, 2.5, 3.2, 2.5. Straight up and down here, north to south. Let's go down south and west. Okay? A 2.7. Let's go north. 2.5. And another 3.7. Interesting. Let's go out here to the west. Central Sulawesi, Indonesia. A 2.7 here. Let's go south. 3.8. 2.5. These are almost all the same magnitude. Can anybody tell me what happened the last time we saw groupings of earthquakes like this? They were taking out underground bases. Underground bases. Okay? That's probably what they're doing here again. Underground military bases. DUMBs. Exactly. Thanks, Richard. I believe that's what we have here in Sulawesi, Indonesia. Okay? They're all the same magnitude except for one. There's a 5.2 we talked about a few minutes ago. All the rest are 3s except for one, which is a 2.7. Okay? Isn't that interesting? Northern Sulawesi, Indonesia. DUMBs. Further south, we have a 3.5 and a 2.7 here. Southern Sulawesi, Indonesia. Let's back this out here. They don't tell us about any earthquakes here. What's going on? Why not? Why not? I have issues. When they refuse to tell us about earthquakes, there's a reason. There's a reason they don't. Over here in the Molucca Sea, we have a 3.8 here, don't we? A lot of earthquakes here. Then over here in Mindanao, Philippines. In the Mindanao, Philippines, right here. They don't show any earthquakes, do they? Right up here. Northern Mindanao, actually north central Mindanao, Philippines. West of San Fernando, Philippines. A 3.2 earthquake. That's all fine and dandy. They didn't tell us about that. But they also didn't tell us about two other earthquakes off the northeast coast of Mindanao, Philippines. A 3.2 and a 4.87. A 3.2 and a 4.87. Aftershocks of a 9.0, 10.0 earthquake that happened here 1 month ago. Coming up at 1 month ago. Yes, we're continuing to have aftershocks. Only the EMSC European agency is showing us this. Isn't it interesting that the United States agency again is neglecting to show us where seismic energy is? This whole area here, folks, we have 7 different tectonic plates, one subducting under the other here. Just like we have over in the Pacific Northwest, where we have 3 different plates subducting there. The main one being the Pacific Plate subducting under the North American Plate. Here, guess what? It's not just these plates here, but the Pacific Plate is also subducting here. That's why we're having so many earthquakes. Even down here in the Tongan, Fiji, and Samoa Islands. Okay? Again, a 5.8 here last night. Up here today, another very strong 6.4 earthquake. 216 kilometers deep. Let's go over here to Hawaii. They're not hardly showing us anything here, are they? Right here, off the west coast of the Big Island, they're showing us a new earthquake here. A 3.3 off the Kailua, Kona, Hawaii area. Off of Kailua, Kona, Hawaii area. Showing us an earthquake. That's all fine and good. How about the earthquakes on the Big Island? How about the earthquakes on the Big Island? Down here on the southwestern part of the Big Island here, we have an earthquake here. A 2.41 earthquake right here. They're not showing us that. It's a minor earthquake. Probably nobody felt it. This is over on the southwest flank of Mauna Loa. This earthquake is an earthquake on the southwest flank of Mauna Loa volcano. How about that? And they're not showing us. Europeans are. Then over in southern Pahala, look at this. How about this? A 2.2 earthquake. Southern Pahala. Interesting. Like I said, Pahala here is an area of the Big Island of Hawaii. The magma plume from deep in the South Pacific, pushing magma through the crust of the earth, all over the earth to all the volcanoes. The magma from the deep plume in the South Pacific comes up here to Pahala. Pahala is the distribution point for magma here at the Big Island. The magma comes in here to Pahala, and it's distributed to over here at Kilauea. It's also distributed over here to Mauna Loa, and up here to Mauna Kea. Yes, folks, there's a volcano over here at Mauna Kea right there. And there's usually more earthquakes here at Mauna Kea than at Mauna Loa. By the way, Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea are covered with snow right now. To the northwest, we have another volcano called Hualalai. Hualalai. This volcano rarely does anything here. Minor tremors and minor earthquakes here at Hualalai. While the rest of these volcanoes, we have minor and small earthquakes here. Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa, and also over here at Kilauea. Okay? Today they're not showing any earthquakes at all here. Here in the northeast zone of the Big Island. Aveyah and Pu'u'o drained out in 2019. Scientists for several days wondered where the magma went to. Kilauea and Mauna Loa, I'm not saying Mauna Loa, Kilauea and Pu'u'o had lava in the caldera of the volcanoes. It drained out. It went out here to the East Rift Zone here in Hawaii. See all these lava plumes here? These were, Demon Catman says the microphone keeps cutting out. Dadgummit. I appreciate that, Dean. Thank you so much. Anyway, folks, the magma drew out of Pu'o and Kilauea. Went over here to the East Rib Zone. 24 fissures opened up here. As you can see here, where these lava plumes are. This is sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide. At the time, these lava plumes and this whole volcanic field area was hot to the touch. For months, people out here. I believe in some areas it's still hard to walk on. Okay? It also destroyed about 1,000 homes out here in Leilani Estates. The lava came and poured out of the fissures, and it made new landform here on the eastern flank of Hawaii. New land here, acres and acres of new land here on the Big Island. When it drained out, the lava hit the cold water of the Pacific and it exploded. Lava bombs flew out of the Pacific Ocean and hit tourist boats offshore. The lava bombs hit the waters of the Pacific here and flew out into the water onto a couple tourist boats and nearly started the tourist boats on fire. Injured 2 people. After that, the tourist boats were warned to stay far offshore, not even getting anywhere close to shore here. But that's what happens when you have a volcanic eruption out here on the Big Island. Some of these fissures are now named volcanoes. Some of the fissures that opened up are named volcanoes. Okay? That's how serious those fissures were. They developed cones and craters and are now named volcanoes. USGS is only showing one 3.3 earthquake here. There's 4 of them. Isn't that interesting? Heaven forbid they tell us the truth. They're not telling us the truth here. We also have an earthquake down here in the Canary Islands. How about that? When they refuse to tell us what's going on, and now, I'm sorry, the EMSC just took off the earthquake here at La Palma. There was a 2.2 earthquake here at La Palma not more than 10 minutes ago. The European agency dropped it. 2.2 earthquake off of La Palma here. He took it down. That's where we had that volcano, Cumbre Vieja volcano, here just 2 years ago. 2 years ago. It finally calmed down. Now, let me show you something else. Over here, just east of the Strait of Gibraltar, we have an earthquake fault that juts out here into the water, into the Western Mediterranean. We have an earthquake over here in the Strait of Gibraltar. It's a 2.2. We have another one over in southern Spain. This is a 2.1. USGS says nothing about it. Not a thing. Richard Smith is just telling us about another moderate 4.1 in Hudson Bay. Not surprising. In northeastern Spain, there's another 2.2 earthquake here. They're not showing that one either, are they? Nope, Heaven forbid we want to know about it. Over in southwestern France, Brittany, France, a 2.4. Over in the English Channel, between France and England, there's a 3.6 here. A 3.6 in the English Channel. They're not showing that either, are they? Heaven forbid. Over here in the Italian Alps, the southern Italian Alps, there's a 2.1 here. Further north, in Switzerland, in the Alps, a 2.9, 3.0. This is near Davos, Switzerland. This is where they're having a meeting of the organization. Let me stop here and let me show you the organizations that are meeting here in Davos, Switzerland, plotting all of our demise. Okay? These elites of our world are plotting our demise. This organization right here. Okay? That organization is just one of them. The other here is this organization right here. Okay? That organization here that 2 and 3 years ago were plotting our demise and telling us, oh, we're all going to die if we don't do what they tell us to do. This other organization right here is one that we really need to fear, because these people are trying to destroy our world economically. These people are meeting right now in Davos, Switzerland, where that earthquake hit. Isn't that interesting? We have an earthquake like that. It's a minor earthquake. It's just a minor earthquake. But boy, how some of us would love to see a bigger earthquake to happen when these organizations are meeting to decide how we are going to live out our lives now. Okay? George Soros. George Soros. Klaus Schwab. All these elites of the world, all of these elites that complain about our carbon footprint, yet all of them arrive in private planes in Davos, Switzerland. What is their carbon footprint? All of the hotels are packed. All of the hotels are packed there. Only the media elites that will report what those world elites want us to know. Only the media elites that want to speak their language are allowed to be there. Anybody else that disagrees with them is not allowed to be there. They have to come in on trains and buses from outside the area. But they're also not allowed to be in the meetings. Private people are not allowed to be there. Isn't that interesting? Over here in Switzerland, this is Maundock, Switzerland. This is a 2.0 here. USGS is also not showing any of these earthquakes here. None. None. They're not showing us any earthquakes here in Crete. Isn't that interesting too? Okay? Northern Greece. This is a 2.5. All kinds of earthquakes here. all kinds of earthquakes here in Greece. It's just not showing any. None. Into the area north of the Aegean Sea. Okay? There's 3 earthquakes here. This is a 2.2. South of the 2.2, a 2.8. And I'm not about to try to pronounce that town. I can't even read that language. A 2.2 there. In the Aegean Sea, here's a 2.1 here. East of Athens, this is a 2.4. A 2.4. North of Crete, we have another 2.1. Southwest of Crete, we have a 3.2. Again, they're not showing us any earthquakes here at all. Zero zilch. Central Crete, we have a 2.3. And over in the southern Dokanese Islands, we have a 2.5 and a 3.7. The southern Dokanese Islands, a 2.5 and a 3.7 here. Okay? Let me move this map over here. Right down here in the southern Dokanese Islands here. Northwestern Turkey, a 2.0 and another 2.0. Side-by-side earthquakes here in northwestern Turkey. Interesting. Then I want to show you this. This is very important. Over in this region here, eastern Turkey and the Syria border region, this is where we had another 9.0, 10.0 earthquake here last year, this time last year. They're showing us one earthquake. This is a 4.1. Well, guess what, guys? Guess what? 6 earthquakes here. 6 earthquakes. It's just not one aftershock, it's 6 aftershocks. A 4.1. Actually, it's 7. 4.1. A 2.8. Another 4.0 right there. Right next to the 2.8. West of there, another 2.0. Just south of there is another 2.0. Here's another 2.0 here. And just west of there is a 3.7. So we've had 2 4s, a 3.7, and a bunch of 2s. 7 earthquakes here, and they show us 1. The same area where we had several major earthquakes, 9.0 and 10.0 earthquakes here last year this time. Same time. Yet they're trying to tell us that nothing happens. They're trying to tell us, oh, nothing happens there. Nothing happens. That's actually fascinating. Nothing happens. Over here, this is the area where mountains here, the Himalaya mountains here. The Himalaya mountains come out of these major tectonic plate junctures. Okay? The tectonic plate here in the Himalaya mountains stretches from Myanmar and India all the way over here to Russia, China, Tajikistan, and Afghanistan. Here, they're showing us 4.1 in Afghanistan. That's interesting, because there's actually 5 earthquakes here. 5 earthquakes here. There's a 3.5. There's a 4.2. Another 3.4, a 4.1, and another 3.7. 5 earthquakes here. 5 earthquakes. And they tell us. Europeans tell us a story here, don't they? Now, over here in the eastern Himalaya area, okay, India, Haipu, Myanmar. At the juncture of Myanmar and India, where they're actually having a civil war right now, there's a 1.0 earthquake. I mean, a 3.1 earthquake. A 3.1 earthquake here. Just south of there also, this is Thailand. A 2.0 earthquake here. They're not showing us that either, are they? Nothing. Not a thing happens there, right? Not a thing. We showed you the entire world. We've now taken you on a tour of the world. Okay? I showed you the earthquakes over here in Japan, didn't I? Okay? Not one earthquake, but 5 earthquakes here in NATO Japan. Okay? Southern Japan, Wakayama, Japan, a 2.6. Interesting. Interesting. Over between Honshu and Hokkaido, we have a 3.3. They're not showing us that either, are they? Heaven forbid we know about anything going on. Yet it affects our lives, doesn't it? Absolutely. Now, I forgot to tell you what's going on here in New Zealand, because they're not showing us anything here in New Zealand at all. Let's briefly go over there. The Kermadec Islands, a 3.36. The Kermadec Islands are unoccupied islands that are north of New Zealand. Right here. A 3.36 earthquake. Over in the Catcher's Mitt, the Bay of Plenty here. Okay? A 2.6 here. Let's take you into the Bay of Plenty. A 2.6, a 3.0, and a 2.99 3.0. Okay? Gisborne, New Zealand, a 3.38. Okay? The Bay of Plenty. Then we come down into New Zealand, south of the Bay of Plenty. A 2.26 here. A 2.26 here. Then, just north of the supervolcano. Yes, a supervolcano. Taupo Lake here. Just north of Taupo Lake, we have a 4.19 earthquake. A moderate 4.19 earthquake. South of the big supervolcano, Taupo Volcano, we have a 3.5 here. Isn't that interesting? Look where this other volcano is. This is halfway between Taupo Lake and this, oh gosh, the name of the volcano just slipped my mind. Okay? It's a big volcano down there. Just slipped my mind. It's been rumbling. It's been rumbling. Then west of there, just east of the shoreline. Okay? We have a 2.41 right there. A 2.41. Now, down over on the southern part of the North Island, just right next to the Cook Strait here, Wanganui, New Zealand. Wanganui, New Zealand, right here. This is a 2.5 here in the Cook Strait, part of the Cook Strait. The southern Cook Strait here, we have a 2.3 here. Okay? Then we go over into the South Island, north of Christchurch. Another 2.53 here. We go further south, and this is just barely south of Christchurch. Guess what? Another 2.39. Three 2.39 earthquakes, almost right in a row here in the Cook Strait and over here just north of Christchurch, New Zealand. They're not telling us about any of them. Yet we have 4.1 here on the North Island. And USGS didn't believe that any of us needed to see this. We have people here in the EMA family that live here in New Zealand. One of my best friends, Gina, lives over in Christchurch. Don't you think she would want to know? Then further south, in Southland National Park, a 2.6 here, a 2.6, and also another 4.16. A moderate 4.16 here. Now, while this area here is not occupied all the time, this is a very cold national park in southern New Zealand. A very cold national park here in southern New Zealand. Not a lot of people come down here, but still a moderate earthquake here. Don't you think people want to know about that? Absolutely they do. And yet the agency doesn't believe that anybody should know about it. Isn't that cool? They think it's okay. They just think it's okay. Oh, we don't have to talk about it. We don't have to talk about it. Folks, we've shown you close to 150, 200 earthquakes. USGS on their map says worldwide there's only 35 earthquakes worldwide. We've just got through showing you over 150. There's probably 300 earthquakes worldwide. And yet, we're not supposed to know about it, huh? Nobody's supposed to tell us about it. Over here in the southern Atlantic, 2 earthquakes here. A 5.7 very large earthquake down here in the South Sandwich Islands. Further south over here on the Antarctic Ridge, this is a 5.3. A 5.7 and a 5.3. Both of these earthquakes are going to work their way up the Mid-Atlantic Fault here within the next few days, at the latest probably by Saturday or Sunday. They're going to work their way up through the South Atlantic Fault here. They're going to move the Atlantic as I explained yesterday and many other times on past programs. The Mid-Atlantic Fault is expanding. The Mid-Atlantic Fault is expanding, which means the fault is pushing Europe in an easterly direction. It's pushing the North American fault, the North American plate, in a south-southwesterly direction. Well, I didn't have time to talk to you last night about earthquakes here on the East Coast. Earthquakes here in Virginia. Earthquakes here in Virginia. Earthquakes down here in North and South Carolina. Earthquakes down here in Georgia. Earthquakes over here in Alabama. Mississippi. I showed you earthquakes in Tennessee. Incredible. Because the Atlantic plate is pushing the North American plate in a south-southwesterly direction. For those of you that have heard me talk about Sumter, South Carolina. Sumter, South Carolina, we've seen a lot of earthquakes at. Upwards of 4.5 earthquakes at Sumter, South Carolina. Sumter, South Carolina, Elgin, South Carolina, Lugoff, South Carolina, all those places I just mentioned here. They're over here on the East Continental Divide. Right here on the East Continental Divide. We're still getting 2.5 and 3.5 earthquakes here. We're still seeing them. North here where I live. We have Grandfather Mountain out here. Grandfather Mountain is just west of where I live. We can drive there within the hour, 45 minutes tops. Grandfather Mountain, 2.5, 1.5, 1.7. Those are tremors and minor earthquakes at Grandfather Mountain. And Dogwood Mountain as well. Taylorsville, north of Morganton, 45 minutes north of Morganton. 2.5, 2.7s, and a bunch of tremors in Taylorsville. Along the coast here, the coastal areas are getting hit with 4.5s, 4.8s here along the coastline of North Carolina. And upwards here into Virginia. 2.7s, 2.8s, and 3.0s in Virginia. All because the Mid-Atlantic Fault is pushing the North American plate in a south-southwesterly direction. The USGS not talking about it. Heaven forbid we hear about it. Earthquakes happening in northeastern Ontario and Quebec, Canada. They're not telling us about it. Earthquakes happening over here in northwestern Canada, southwestern Canada. They're not going to tell us about it, are they? No, they're not. I think it's necessary. We need to make plans for ourselves. Tomorrow night is Preparedness Friday. We're going to talk about this tomorrow night. Folks, before we leave tonight, start thinking about questions you want to ask me. Write them down. Write down your questions so you can ask me questions tomorrow night about preparedness issues that you're concerned about or even worried about. As I told you last night, one of our own in South Dakota, cold, bitter cold South Dakota this past weekend. called me about 10 o'clock that night and told me that their carbon monoxide detector was going off. I said, check their batteries. They said, the woman told me, one of our own here told me, that they had changed the batteries in the smoke detector but hadn't done so in the carbon monoxide detector. So I told her to check the batteries. And if the batteries, once they were changed and the carbon monoxide detector was still going off, I counseled her to call the fire department. Well, the fire department came out in the area of the apartment complex where she and other people were. About 10 people in that complex. The area of the complex had 85% carbon monoxide. 85% carbon monoxide was detected there. The fire department went and shut off the furnace and stayed there until the carbon monoxide levels had gone down. One person left there and went over to one of their friends' houses to spend the night. Carbon dioxide percentages went way down and finally disappeared. If this family member had not called me, 10 people may have died in South Dakota last weekend because of carbon monoxide poisoning. Folks, we talked about this last night. This is serious. These are serious issues. If you don't already have a carbon monoxide detector in your homes, I would urge you to get one. Especially if you have an old furnace. If you haven't changed the filters in your furnaces, do so. Old filters can cause carbon monoxide buildup from your furnace. And if it's not corrected, people could get sick and die. It happens this time every year. Folks, it's time to get things right. It's time to get things right in our lives. Things are happening. Things are happening all over the place. Now, while we've talked about blizzards and snowfall and earthquakes and other calamities, let's go over to Grindavik, Iceland. We talked about the eruptions last Sunday, where they evacuated Grindavik. You can see some homes and businesses here in Grindavik. You can also see the 2 lava fields. You can also see off to the right the earthen berm that officials had built out here to contain the lava outside of Grindavik. But you also see a lava field that erupted closer to Grindavik, on the western edge of Grindavik. That lava field engulfed 3 homes and destroyed them. Now they're building another berm right here on the very edge of Grindavik. Rightly so. Here you can see the lava field here still steaming, what they call outgassing. Nothing is burning out here in the lava fields today. This was Sunday into Monday. These pictures were taken Sunday into Monday. Outgassing. Outgassing going on at the lava fields. Over in Grindavik, there's still been some earthquakes here. But the earthquakes here are due to subsidence. Subsidence. meaning the land sinking. The land sinking. There was a great big huge magma reservoir here underneath Grindavik. The magma has drained out of this reservoir and has gone further north. Now this land is sinking, opening up huge fissures here. This fissure opened up in a brand new resurfaced roadway. They just got through filling in this huge fissure here. Now it's opened up again as a result of ground deformation, as a result of magma having left this area. But it's happening still. This is another area. Look at this. This fissure opened up, exposing infrastructure. Water and gas piping here in Grindavik. If these pipes pop, it could mean water and gas all over the place, and they would have to try to fix this. So there are still problems in Grindavik, and they're still attempting to fix it. Folks, this is a map of Grindavik. This area of Grindavik is where the ground deformation is occurring, where the land is subsiding, meaning going down into where the magma chamber once was. The ground is subsiding. The red circle you see here is where that accident occurred, where they had sent several men down into the fissure to start repairing the fissure and filling it in. One man was down there with a tamper, a machine that is jiggling, tamping the ground down, making it stronger so they can put more fill in there, and they would tamp that down. What happened? While that man was using that tamping machine, the ground opened up and took him in. They never did find him again. He's assumed dead. Okay? These yellow lines are where fissures had opened up as a result of the magma here and the earthquakes that happened here. This is serious. They are talking now about reopening Grindavik. This yellow area here, it says signature 10 November. This is when the earthquake started happening, the 7th through the 10th of November. This is when they started evacuating Grindavik, because they thought that the volcano was going to erupt all over Grindavik and destroy Grindavik. Torbjorn, that is where the volcano is. That is also where the Blue Lagoon and the geothermal facility is, where man has dug in, drilled into the upper magma chambers of the volcano to obtain steam to power turbines to generate electricity in this area. That's Torbjorn. You can see where Grindavik is. Over on the right side over here, this is where the newer earthquakes are happening, and the newer fissures are opening up here. Where the NIA signature is, newer earthquakes and newer fissures have opened up here. People have a right to be worried. Nobody's allowed to live in Grindavik right now. The authorities are trying to make it safe. They want to make sure it is safe. So when people do return, they can return to their homes and feel fairly safe where nothing else is going to happen. I'm going to show you this map, okay? The red lines here are where the old fissures were. The red lines here are where the old fissures were. To the north is where you see that blue line there. That is a small lake. At that lake is where a volcano is. The blue areas here are where ground deformation is happening now, where the earth is sinking. Okay? I want to make sure that everybody can realize what is going on in Iceland. It's still a very dangerous area right now. I'm not going to pull anybody's lanyard here. It's still a very dangerous area. Now, I want to show you a couple more pictures. See this brown area here? This is where the new earthen berm is. The new earthen wall that they have dug in here to keep magma from entering Grindavik. They're going to encircle Grindavik with a huge wall, 15 to 20 feet high, to make sure Grindavik will never have to face lava coming into their town again. They don't believe right now that the volcano is going to erupt in Grindavik. All of the earthquakes have stopped happening except for minor tremors from the ground going down into the earth. Okay? This is what's happened because of the subsidence. Where earth raises up and goes down as well. New cracks closer to the surface. How'd you like to live there now? Again, this is what it looked like Sunday going into Monday. Two different lava fields. Folks, I want to make darn sure that all of us, and yes, we have people in Iceland watching our program. The professor of geology at Icelandic University is watching this program. He's the one I'm getting information from. Okay? But I want to make sure that all of you also understand. There may be also people here from Iceland watching this program. We're going to continue to update this area of Iceland. Iceland is very beautiful. It's got 500,000 people living on this island of Iceland. I am sworn, I've taken my own oath to make sure we continue to give you updated information on what's going on, especially when lives are in the balance. I want to make sure that we give you information that you can use to be able to help yourself and help others save your lives. Now, with everything we talked about, a major fire in Washington, D.C. early this morning. A natural gas pipeline broke, causing a fire and collapsing a building over there in Washington, D.C. We talked about that. We talked about a space launch. 4 people being launched into orbit to the International Space Station. They're going to dock at the space station Saturday morning. We've talked about earthquakes around the world. We talked about carbon monoxide. Tomorrow night we're going to be talking more about emergency preparedness. I am going to bring all of my oils here. I'm going to bring all my essential oils here. And we're going to talk about essential oils and how they can be used to help each one of us get through disease and other illnesses that could happen in our own homes, in our own areas, in our own cities. Bougie $5 super chat. Thank you ever so much for the super chat. We really appreciate it. That makes the world of difference to all of us. You help us pay the bills here. You help us keep the lights on. You help us keep this program on the air. It takes bandwidth. It takes internet bandwidth. Sometimes during this program, bandwidth disappears like it just did. It went from 2,600 kilobytes per second, now 28, now 3,000. It went down to 1,900 and 1,700. Now it went down to 2,100, 2,600 kilobytes per second. Yesterday it was down in the 700s, and our program was buffering. I am talking to that provider to make sure that we can do these broadcasts. I appreciate all of your help in helping me do that. I appreciate it more than you ever know. I love you guys for it. I've talked about your support to us. I've talked about our PayPal, 2 PayPal locations we have, and a Venmo location. Those are just below this program in our program description. Our email address is also there. We also have a P.O. box here. Sue Ellen just gave us another $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Sue Ellen. God bless you. Sue Ellen, I will call you back. Sue Ellen called me earlier on the phone, and I will call her back in a few minutes. I don't take unsolicited calls until after the program. I don't mind talking to anybody, but unless I know you're going to call, I'm not going to put the phone on the air. I'm just not going to do it. So Sue Ellen, I'll call you back as soon as we get back off the air. But I appreciate your support. It means a great deal to me and to our EMA family. Once we get my cancer paid for and we have considerable money coming in to take care of bandwidth issues, I am going to try to make sure I spread the wealth to our mods. Our mods do a wonderful job here. I love them very much. Our moderators take care of problems. Our moderators help me do my job, and many times they also feed me information. Once I get through paying my hospital and doctor bills for my cancer, I'm going to also help you guys get a little bit of money as well. I love you all. I really do. You all make me the person I am. You make me the emergency manager that I want and need to be. Sue Ellen just gave us another $2 super chat. Sue Ellen says, I didn't call you. Well, let me look again here. Okay, I just want to make sure. I'm sorry, no, it wasn't you. It was another gentleman. I'll call him back when I get off this program. Sorry, Sue Ellen. I I appreciate you, though. Thank you so much. Anyway, guys, you guys all mean the world to me. You really do. I want to take a few minutes and talk about our own lives, each one of us. I want to talk about our faith in Jesus Christ. I talk about and do a devotional every evening at the end of our program. Tonight I want to talk about faith. Faith in Jesus Christ is a feeling of peace to withstand the storm. We have a lot of storms in our lives, don't we? Knowing that we will not perish, He is in the ship with us. Christ is there for us. Christ has always been here for us. Fantasy Dog just said Ron is a good man. We're lucky to know him. I'm lucky to know all of you. Faith is very important. Faith is a substance of things we don't know about and the evidence of things not seen. In the scriptures, I want to tell you, we talk specifically about faith here. It says, "Now as I said concerning faith, that it was not a perfect knowledge, even so it is with my words. You cannot know of a surety at first unto perfection, any more than faith is a perfect knowledge. But behold, if ye will wake and rouse your faculties, even to an experiment upon my words, exercise a particle of faith. You even as ye can no more than desire to believe, let this desire work in you, even until ye believe in a manner that ye can give place for a portion of my words. Now, we will compare the word unto a seed. Now, if ye give place that a seed may be planted in your heart, behold, if it be a true seed, or a good seed, if you do not cast it out by your unbelief, that ye will resist the Spirit of the Lord, behold, it will begin to swell within your breasts. And when you feel this swelling, these swelling motions, you will begin to say within yourselves, it must needs to be that this is a good seed, or that the word is good, for it beginneth to enlarge my soul. Yea, it beginneth to enlighten my understanding. Yea, it beginneth to be delicious to me. Now behold, would not this increase your faith? I say unto you, yea, nevertheless it hath not grown up to a perfect knowledge. But, behold, as a seed swelleth, and sprouteth, and beginneth to grow, then you must needs say that the seed is good. For behold, it swelleth and sprouteth, and it beginneth to grow. And now behold, I will not strengthen your faith. Interesting. Now behold, I missaid that. And now behold, will not this strengthen your faith? Yea, it will strengthen your faith. For ye will say, I know that this is a good seed. For behold, it sprouteth and beginneth to grow. And now behold, are ye sure that this is a good seed? I say unto you, yea. For every seed bringeth forth unto its own likeness. Therefore, if a seed groweth, it is good. But if it groweth not, behold, it is not good. Therefore it is cast away. And now behold, because ye have tried the experiment, and planted the seed, and it swelleth, sprouteth, and beginneth to grow. You must needs know that the seed is good. And now behold, is your knowledge perfect? Yea, your knowledge is perfect in that thing, and your faith is dormant. And this is because you know, for ye know that the word has swelled your souls, and ye also know that it hath sprouted up, that your understanding doth begin to be enlightened, and your mind doth begin to expand. O then, is this not real? I say unto you, yea, because it is light, and whatsoever is light is good, because it is discernible. Therefore ye must know that it is good. And now behold, after ye have tasted this light in your knowledge, is your knowledge perfect? Behold, I say unto you, nay. Neither must ye lay aside your faith, for ye have only exercised your faith to plant the seed, that ye might try the experiment to know if the seed is good. Now behold, as a tree beginneth to grow, you will say, let us nourish it with great care, that if it might get root, that it may grow up and bring forth good fruit unto us. And now, behold, if ye nourish it with much care, it will get root, and grow up and bring forth fruit. But if ye neglect the tree, and take no thought for its nourishment, behold, ye will not get any root. And when the heat of the sun cometh, and scorcheth it, because it hath no root, it withers away, and ye pluck it up and cast it out. Isn't that a lot like us? Is it not like us? We need to develop our faith. We need to work on it. We need to nourish our faith just like a plant or any tree or a bush. We must give our faith nourishment. We must continue to let it grow until one day we will know the truth of all things. Our tree will take root. It will bear good fruit. And in our case, we will be able to share our testimonies of Jesus Christ and our Heavenly Father. We will come forth and know more and more until the light of day, until we have Jesus Christ in front of us, and we can report our good deeds here on this earth. Brothers and sisters, our faith is just like that. We need to work on our faith. We need to work on our faith until the last days. Yes, we are living in the last days, but we're not done here. We're not done at all. Exercise your faith, brothers and sisters. I just told you what a prophet of God did and why we must exercise our faith and grow. May God bless you. May God be with you. Nourish your faith until it swells within you and helps you and enlightens your mind and helps your family. God be with you. God bless you. I ask the Lord to be with you now. If anything else happens tonight, we will be back here on the air to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available. Until then, guys, I hope you have a great night and a better tomorrow. We will be back here on the air tomorrow to talk about results of what happens to our lives what happens to our Earth. Tomorrow evening, we're also going to talk about emergency preparedness and oils, essential oils to help each one of us. Please pass this information on. Everybody needs to know this. Please invite your families, your extended families, your friends and your neighbors to take part in tomorrow's emergency preparedness program. I have knowledge. No, I am not an expert, but I do have knowledge that I will share with you tomorrow evening. I ask the Lord to bless you now. Humbly, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Have a good night, folks. We will see you on the other side. Good night, everybody. Have fun. We'll see you.